Hello, my name is Jennifer, and I want to share some information on how our natural resources can impact the development of parcels. Whether you're a buyer's agent or a seller's agent, an ecological assessment allows you to leverage information. No one likes surprises. Tortoise burrows, wetlands, and bald eagles are not deal breakers when everyone knows what the potential impact is. For the seller's agents, not only is everything properly disclosed, but you can assure the buyers that the price already takes the natural resources into account, and the sale can be completed faster with less time required for an ecological feasibility study during the diligence period. On the buyer's side, knowing what you are dealing with increases their confidence in your listing, especially compared to others that do not include any natural resources information. There are hundreds of federal and state threatened or endangered animals and just as many plants. Obviously, I will not cover them all here, but what you're most likely to run into in this area are burrowing owls, gopher tortoises, bald eagles, and wetlands. If you do have gopher tortoise burrows, most residential parcels qualify for the basic 10 or fewer burrows permit. Costs for excavation and relocation can be as low as $1,800 or exceed $40,000, so knowing ahead of time is very important. FWC regulations require that a building permit application be on file with the city or county, and a site plan that clearly shows the tortoise burrows cannot be properly avoided. This means that they cannot be relocated for a clearing or a mulching permit, nor can they be relocated as a condition of or prior to sale. If the burrows are in the yard of a completed home, both the burrows and the tortoises are protected and cannot be relocated under normal circumstances. That may mean a conversation with myself or the regional FWC gopher tortoise biologist to answer any question that the buyers or sellers may have. When it comes to relocating tortoises or burrowing owls or mitigating wetlands, you should treat it just like a cost of doing business. It's just part of the development process. The builders generally loop that right into their costs when they're estimating a home construction. For vacant lots, the costs involved should obviously be considered when pricing the lot or when making an offer. But it's very important that you understand as a real estate agent and as a resident that your attitude can seriously impact the buyer's views towards our wildlife, not only during the buying process, but their entire experience here in Southwest Florida. It's never a good idea to have people come here and already view it as an adversarial relationship, us against the environment. Everybody loses in that case. Development is going to happen, but we don't have to kill everything that already lives here. While you may not have scrub jays impacting Cape Coral City lots, they are in the region. They are federally protected, and there are a couple of different ways that mitigation can happen. Some counties, such as Charlotte County, have an agreement with U.S. Fisheries and Wildlife that allows them to collect mitigation fees and development fees at the time of permitting. Other counties, such as Sarasota, the city of Northport, Lee County, do not have a local habitat conservation plan, which means the development fees are handled through U.S. Fisheries and Wildlife directly. They can take up to a year to get that permit. It can cost in the neighborhood of $20,000 for a standard 10,000 square foot lot. So it's an important piece of information to know ahead of time. What we do have locally are burrowing owls, and a lot of them. It has been proven that they do not stray far from their burrow territory, not far meaning within a block. So ideally, when we construct a home, we would avoid the burrows that are there. That means a 10-foot setback outside of nesting season, then that increases to 33 feet during nesting season. Nesting season runs from February 15th through July 15th, so if construction is started by the end of July and outdoor work is done before nesting season begins, it may be possible to leave the burrows right where they are. If they cannot be avoided, a permit must be obtained from the FWC, and the burrow must be collapsed when there are not any eggs or unfledged babies in that burrow. I prefer to contact the neighbors immediately adjacent to the lot with the burrows on it and install a starter burrow before their existing burrow is collapsed. This gives them a place to shelter so they are not displaced far from their homes, and it gets them out of the weather and away from predators. Once the home construction is done, starter burrows are placed on that lot where the original burrow was, and they must be maintained for at least 3 years with reporting to the FWC. We also are lucky enough to have many bald eagle nests in the area. While they're no longer on the endangered species list, they are still protected in Florida as well as by the Federal Migratory Bird Act. In Cape Coral specifically, there are restrictions within 1,100 feet of the nests. Under no circumstances can a nest tree be cut down or destroyed, even if the nest blew down. If construction must continue into nesting season, an approved management plan and monitoring will be required. This is not ideal, as monitoring costs about $500 per day and is required usually at least 3 days per week. Wetlands are also protected, and while the National Wetlands Inventory Map can give you a general guideline, it's to see if there are wetlands known on the parcel or in the area, it is not 100% accurate. Some areas that had been identified as wetland no longer qualify due to draining, ditching, canals, construction, anything that can change area hydrology. And on the flip side of that coin, wetlands can be created, often accidentally by developers or people clearing lots and scraping them clean. Just a couple of inches will allow ponding to happen long enough that it now meets the criteria for a wetland. When wetlands are delineated, that boundary is used by the survey team and then again by the builders and engineers when they're creating the site plan, which have specific setbacks, 25 feet for construction, 75 feet for well and septic. Both of these parcels pictured are wetlands. The one on the left is pretty obvious. There's standing water sitting there. The one on the right, however, unless you know what you're looking for, you might not realize that you should have that looked at a little closer. The black crusty stuff up front is algal matting. The grass directly behind it is needle rush with some reddish sea purslane visible behind it. The short bushes in the middle are actually white mangroves. The taller trees along the canal are white, black, and red mangroves. You can see a house and some Australian pines in the very back. Those are actually on the other side of the canal. Additionally, all the way from the water to the road, in both the open areas and the forested areas, are fiddler crab burrows. Lee County protects about 75 native trees. The preference is to avoid impact and retain them during construction, and if that's not possible, you have to pay additional mitigation fees on your tree permit to remove them. And there are also planting requirements to replace what you've removed. Mangroves, however, have both state and federal protection. While there are exemptions that allow homeowners to do some trimming, they are very restrictive. The trees must be shorter than 10 feet. You can only trim them no shorter than 6 feet or 25% of the foliage maximum. If they're taller than 10 feet, you must get a certified mangrove trimmer to do that trimming. There are also restrictions on how many feet of shoreline may be trimmed. Removal of the mangroves is not allowed without a permit. Dock and seawall installation and maintenance does allow some removal from the footprint of the project, but expect to pay about $40,000 in mangrove mitigation fees for a typical seawall installation. The wisest approach is to treat an ecological assessment the same way you do a home inspection. It's not required, but it's a very, very good idea. Turnaround time is about 2 weeks. We can usually get the site visit done sooner and notify you of anything that should or could impact your offer on a parcel. And the best way to request a proposal is through email. Send me the address, parcel ID, or street lot and block number, the date that you need it by, and the name, phone number, and email of the contact person and who should be on the invoice.